A very good morning, class. I hope all are doing very well and studying also. As you all know, we have finished with the chapter Force and Pressure. This is a summary video for you, my dear students. As we know, force is a push or a pull acting on a body. What exactly force is? Force is a push or a pull acting on a body which tends to change the state of its rest or motion, through which we can change the state of a body from rest to motion or motion to rest. Then we studied about the different effects of the force which can it have. Force can make an object move. Suppose if you are applying a force on a body, then what will happen? If a body is at rest, it can move. It can come into motion. Here in the picture also you can see the many example. Force can also stop a moving body. Suppose you apply a brakes, you are moving in a car and the driver applies the brakes, then the body will stop. Force can also change the direction of the body. Force can also change the speed of the body. By applying more force, we can change the speed of the body. We can even change the shape and the size. Example of a rubber band, a balloon, we fill the air in it, we change its shape and size. So these were the different effects of the force. The standard unit of force is Newton and it is denoted by capital N. Next we discussed about the different types of the forces. Basically there are two types of forces, contact forces and non-contact forces. First, we will study about the contact forces. These forces are those forces in which two interacting objects are in physical contact with each other, are called as contact forces. Like the example of the muscular force, the force exerted by the muscles of our body is termed as muscular force. Next, we have the frictional force. The force which is opposing the motion of an object is called as the friction. Friction is also a contact force. When two bodies are in direct contact with each other, then this force comes into effect. Without this friction, we are not able to walk. Because of this friction only, we are able to move on the floor. Now, the next type of the force is the non-contact force. As the name suggests, the force which do not make a physical contact with the body and act through a space are called as non-contact forces. Here the two bodies are not in direct contact with each other. Now we will see different types of non-contact forces. The first one is the magnetic force. The force which is exerted by a magnet is called as the magnetic force. We know that a magnet can exert a force on another magnet and on other metals like iron, nickel, without being in a direct contact with each other. Therefore, it is an example of non-contact force. Second one is an electrostatic force. Electrostatic force is exerted by a charged body on another charged body or by an uncharged body. Is called as an electrostatic force. This type of forces are only for a short duration of time and charges can attract or repel each other like we have in the case of magnets. Like charges will repel whereas the unlike charges will attract each other. The third one is the gravitational force. The gravitational force is the force with which any two masses or objects pull each other. We can feel it when the objects are trying to pull us has a significant mass. Because of this gravitational force only the earth is revolving around the sun. All the planets are moving in their particular orbit because of the gravitational force only. Because of the gravity, which is the force with which the earth is attracting the object towards itself. It is again a non-contact force. So this was all about the forces. Now our next topic is pressure. You must have observed when we move on the sand, our feet sink into it and it is very difficult for us to walk. On the other hand, a camel which is much heavier than us can walk on the sand easily. Why? This is because a camel has a broad feet. It is easy to cut a fruit and vegetables with a sharp knife, we know, but with a blunt knife it is very difficult. Why? Because of the pressure. What exactly this pressure is? It is a measure of how much the force is acting on a particular area. It means that pressure is defined as the force acting per unit area. हम particular area पर how much force we are applying, that exactly pressure is. The formula of pressure is force upon area, and its standard unit SI unit is Pascal, denoted as PA, named after the scientist Blaise Pascal, and it is denoted as PA. If the area is small, the pressure is more on the surface. As we can see from the formula only, pressure and area both are inversely related to each other. So if we increase the area, pressure will be less, and if we decrease the area, pressure will be more. Here we can see the example of a blunt knife and a sharp knife. We are able to cut the fruits and vegetables properly with a sharp knife because it has a small area on cutting the edges, so it will exert a more pressure, and the things which we are cutting can be cut properly. If the less area is in contact with each other, it will be exerting more pressure onto it. Till now we discussed about the pressure exerted by the solids. Liquids do also exert pressure. Solids, as we know, have a definite shape, and pressure exerted by them depends on the contact area. However, liquids do not have a definite shape, as we know. The pressure exerted by them depends upon the depth of the water column. They exert pressure not only at the base of the container but also on the sides of it. In fact, the pressure also increases with the depth. The deeper into a liquid you go, the greater the weight of the liquid above, the higher is the pressure. This is due to the upward force acting on the liquid, which this force is known as the buoyancy. The upward force acting on the liquid is also known as the buoyant force, which the liquid observe. Now we come to our next topic, that is atmospheric pressure. We learned that liquid exert pressure, solids also exert pressure. In the same way, gases also exert pressure. That is why a balloon expands when we blow air into it. But what happens if we blow too much air in a balloon? It bursts. This happens because the material of the balloon is not able to withstand the increasing pressure. Our earth is surrounded by a layer of air which is called as atmosphere. This atmosphere exerts a pressure on all the objects. So the pressure exerted by the weight of the air on an object is called as the atmospheric pressure. And the scientific instrument which we use, the meteorological department which is using to measure this atmospheric pressure, is called as the barometer. So what is barometer? An instrument which is used to measure the atmospheric pressure. And the pressure which is exerted by the weight of the air on an object is called as the atmospheric pressure.